Hello, my name is Grace Riley, and we're here at the Post-Roe America conference for the Institute for Faith and Freedom. I'm joined by Alexandra DeSanctis. Thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be with you.
She is a writer at the National Review, and she covers a variety of topics, including politics, election, culture, and abortion policy. We're so happy to have her join us today, and she'll be talking at the conference about what advocacy will look like post-Roe. So we're so excited to have you. Just to begin, what's changed since the Dobbs decision on the pro-life front, and what new challenges are we facing?
Well, the biggest thing to keep in mind is, of course, now after Roe, pro-life states are able to protect unborn children, which was essentially impossible prior to the Dobbs ruling last summer. So that's a big victory. But at the same time, I think pro-lifers have been learning that there's actually a lot of work to do that we weren't necessarily prepared for, in that many states don't have pro-life laws and many Americans are not on the same page with us yet. And so it's been kind of a strategic struggle, I think, trying to figure out how do we win over those Americans who aren't where we are yet? How do we push for the best laws we can without making the perfect the enemy of the good on day one? Just kind of trying to coordinate a national strategy and a political strategy around this important cause.
Yeah, and of course now we have the opportunity to do that, and we didn't before necessarily. And looking at obviously red states, a lot of them have made more restrictive abortion laws, while blue states have taken the opposite approach and basically said, come here, we'll pay for you to stay, we'll pay for your abortion, come visit our state, basically. How can we approach that issue?
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people in the pro-life movement have turned to needing a federal strategy, because at a certain point, absent generations of social change, which is definitely possible, there are always going to be these holdout states where a huge number of people are very pro-abortion, and that's the law we're stuck with there. And so I think we're seeing the pro-life movement and even hopefully some Republican politicians at the national level rallying around the idea that we need to have at least some kind of federal ceiling, right, where we say, even if it's just 15 weeks for now, a pain-capable bill, or ideally a heartbeat 6-week bill, if we can pass something like that, setting an abortion policy for the whole country and saying, at least now there's a national consensus around this, that we can't go further, we can't allow abortions past a certain point.
Yeah, and it is really interesting how with all of this, and in recent years, it did go from safe, legal, and rare to now complete opposite ends of the spectrum with that, where blue states completely took it and ran with it and said, okay, well now we'll be abortion tourism sort of states. So just overall, what's your advice for our advocacy going forward, and what are our next steps?
Well, I think the important thing to keep in mind is that, there's the legal political battle, certainly, and that's important, but there's also a really important, and perhaps even more important in some ways, cultural battle for the hearts and minds of our fellow Americans. And I think what we've seen since Roe is that the pro-life movement is very, very good at this type of advocacy. We can win hearts and minds. We've won a lot of people over, even just through the use of ultrasound or sonogram photographs. And so I think it's really incumbent on us to try and think of new arguments, new ways to reach people, stories we can share, to just show that this is not the America we want to live in, right? Where the most vulnerable among us are victimized to kind of solve problems or under the guise of solving problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any advice for college students, just in either talking to their peers about this issue, because there are a lot of people that are pro-choice who not necessarily completely align with that, but they're just surrounded by a lot of people telling them that they should be pro-choice, especially as women. Do you have advice for college students in talking about why they're pro-life with their peers?
Yeah, my best advice for this is if you want to talk well and speak well about anything controversial, but particularly the pro-life issue, you have to listen well. And by that I mean, first, you want to be a friend and the kind of person that people trust to be honest with and to take you seriously. But secondly, you can't really win somebody over or convince them unless you have made an effort to understand what it is they actually believe and where they're coming from. And I think once you've listened well to someone's point of view, that enables you, if you're well educated and up on the issue, to say, well, it's your belief that women need this, or women will be harmed if there's no abortion. Have you thought about how abortion actually harms many women, right? Mm-hmm. And then be ready to share that, or wherever they're coming from, just kind of meet them where they are. And I found that to be most successful.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. And I think in a lot of ways that's what's missing, where we forget to listen to people, and then how can you really see eye to eye with someone or actually reach them and change their heart or mind if you're not on that level. So I think that's really great advice. And just to finish off, do you have any advice for how people can get involved and what they can do to either be more of an advocate or to be involved in a more hands-on way?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's endless opportunities. If you look around, the pro-life movement needs everybody. It's an all-hands-on-deck moment, and I think it'll look a little bit different for everyone. For college students, perhaps that's organizing a trip to the March for Life, or if there's a pregnancy resource center in the area, trying to put together a fundraising drive or something like that. But it really will look different depending on the community that you're in. Look for people in need, certainly, to serve, and look for opportunities to speak about the issue with people who don't agree with you.
That's great. Now, can you tell people where they can find your work and where they can keep in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Zan_DeSanctis, and you can find most of my work either at National Review or at the Ethics and Public Policy Center think tank, where I do my work.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me, Alexandra.
Thank you.
For more information on the Institute for Faith and Freedom, visit faithandfreedom.com.